Hello, everybody, and welcome to StarNet Link. And today I thought we'll go ahead and do a book review. So, the book review that I'm going to be doing, that I have told my followers or my subscribers on my YouTube channel a couple of months ago, that I'll be doing a book review about one of David Icke's books. I did a video about him, and I thought that I would go ahead and read some of his works because he is sort of a little bit popular in the UFO and spirituality type of community. So, before I begin doing a book review, I thought I would go ahead and explain the reason why I'm doing a book review on his books. The first reason is that I did a video on him and that I wanted to do a book review to analyze his work and understand the reason why so many people are on board with it or connected to it, and the reason why, um what exactly is he talking about, what is he actually trying to preach. And I have noticed myself as a researcher that not a lot of people, especially since we have YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, um, other alternate forms of social media, that no one has actually sat down and actually did a book review analyzing some of the stuff that he actually talks about in his books. And I'm going to be doing that today. I do realize that a lot of people really support this person and really um is fully committed in understanding his works. When I read his books, I only knew a little bit, but after reading his first book, which the book that I read, and I'll show it to people, is Humans, the Human Race, Get Off Your Knees. The Lion Sleeps No More. This is the book that I read, and there was another book that came with it, is How to End or Solve the Conspiracy that he's talking about in his books. I have to say, this book is jam-packed with a lot of information. And I do mean a lot. So let me give an example what I mean by jam-packed. So let me flip to one of his pages, a random page in his books, in order to explain a little bit about his books. So let me give an example. So this is one of his pages, and you can see how small the print is. I don't know how good people can see, but you can see how small the print is and how jam-packed each page is with a bunch of information. I have made tabs of stuff in his books that I kind of want to go over, or if I get lost in talking about stuff, that I know where to go to in this book. When I initially read his books, or started to read his books, I started to understand a lot what he was talking about. Vast majority of the information of his book is extremely watered down spirituality. And I do mean extremely watered down. In the beginning, in the first chapter, he talks about the chakra system. He talks about a little bit about consciousness. He talks about the human perception and how everything in our world is basically an illusion. And I do mean he believes in the holographic universe theory. I do not, I had so many issues with this book. Like, so many issues that made me really upset and laugh at. For a person who's doing research, I do not take his book seriously because there are so many different problems with this book. The first problem is that he has gone around the world, and he has only gone to specific locations around the world in order to fit his narrative for his book. Like, for an example, he has gone to a tribe, which is called the Zulu tribe in Africa, where they talk about how they're afraid of afraid of the Big Dipper because it connects to the draconians or a reptilian species from space. And he believes that um this firmly believes that our entire world is controlled and manipulated by a reptilian species, not just not just a reptilian species in general, but every facet of our entire existence and our religion is all connected to reptilians. Like every single fabric of what we say, our religion, how our spoken word or the root words of our word to our spiritual beliefs, everything in every religion is somehow connected to reptilians. And he regurgitates this throughout his book. And I do mean regurgitate this throughout his entire book. Specifically, he believes that our politicians are shape-shifting reptilians. And he firmly believes that it's not just draconians, but the Nagas, the snake beings, that are the ones that are actually controlling our planet, and that they interbred with humans, and that the hybrids of this species still exist, and it's the 10% that is ruling the world. I had so many issues with that. Number one, the people that I have talked to or researched about do not believe in the shape-shifting reptilian theory. That does not exist. If politicians were actually shape-shifting reptilians, the Galactic Authority would have a heyday with it. And they would basically assassinate any attempts of a foreign race trying to infiltrate or control our government. That's just ground zero. I had so many issues with this book. Number one, the Nagas are not really controlling the world in a sense. I think that there is so much information that's missing. Like the interviewer that I had on that I deleted the video talked about that there are 3 different races that are trying to gain control of Earth. And this is really talked about in the SSP community, other researchers and stuff. But what really upset me is his belief structure and the research that he's conducted. The type of research that he's conducted is that he never really sat down with experiencers, and he never really sat down with a starseed like myself. He basically and fully admits in his book that starseeds are basically fake or not. Basically they're just a run-of-the-mill person from the psychedelic era during the 1970s, and that he basically doesn't really believe in what they're saying or their teaching beliefs. He just thinks it's all fluff because if he actually sat down with a starseed or people who had experiences and have been researching this phenomenon for decades, he would realize how much of his information does not line up or fully commit to decades upon decades of research that can contradict what he's actually saying in his book. The other issue that I had with some of his teachings is that when it comes to the holographic theory, one of the things that I have an issue with is when it comes to the holographic stuff, we're mostly talking about reality distortion, which I made a video of. I don't firmly believe that that our entire world exists in a holographic simulation or control. I don't believe that. I believe in free will. I believe everybody has a choice. I believe in karmic law. That's basically what I believe. I don't believe that our entire world and our existence is being controlled by reptilians. And I really hate the fact that he firmly believes that all reptilians, and he's admits it in his book, that all reptilians that have come to Earth are all evil and manipulating humans. that can be far further from the truth. His book, the book that I was reading is about 10 years old, about 10 going on 20 years old. It was published in 2010, like 2010. And there is a lot of conspiracies that he wrote about. There is a lot of stuff. And the one thing that really catched my eye, and I think that people who are reading his book need to catch on to this. The information in his book also connects to QAnon. QAnon, which happened during the Trump presidential campaign or during the Trump era in the United States. Um, I'm kind of shocked that David Icke has not gotten on board or um started to notice that everything that he talks about in his book is exactly what um QAnon talks about. And I kind of think that QAnon kind of stole the information from David Icke's book because everything that is talked about in his book connects to QAnon. And everything that QAnon talks about also connects to his books. So someone in QAnon must have really, really dove into David Icke's books and just basically categorize and basically copyright some of the information from his book. And I really do mean but they changed certain types of information in his book. And I'm kind of surprised that David Icke has not sued these people, the founders of QAnon, for his information. The other thing that I do want to also talk about in his book that he also talks about the fake moon theory, and the fake moon theory also connects to the flat earth theory. Um I don't really believe I don't really believe in the fake moon theory that the moon is fake. I just don't believe that. I have not talked to enough star seeds and experiencers to actually sit down and talk to them like what is their opinion about the moon. I also don't believe in the flat earth theory. The one way that I am probably going to talk to people and tell people, especially experiencers, starseeds, and people who believe in the fake moon theory or the flat earth theory, um, the one way that I am going to crush this debate is people who are channeling beings, people who have experiences, people who want to explore this theory, why don't you ask the beings that come and contact you or the spirits that come and contact you and get their opinions? And once we have enough people coming forward to get their opinions, is like, do the spirit world or does aliens actually believe that our world is actually flat? And once we get an actual real answer from them, I think it kind of believes that our world is not flat, it's round. And I have had experiences myself where earth is not flat, it's round. And I do believe that a lot of other people around the world believe that the earth is round, and the earth is round. I don't believe in the flat earth theory, and I don't believe in the flat moon, or I mean the fake moon theory. Now, however, there is a lot of good information in this book, like did we actually go to the moon or did we not go to the moon? And I think that's a really serious debate that a lot of people are still having today. Did we actually go to the moon or not? And I think the only way to actually debunk this is actually ask people who have connections to beings that they're channeling and basically ask them, were you around during the time Earth decided to go to the moon? Did we actually go to the moon? And have them answer. And I think that's the only way to actually get thoughtable evidence. But in my opinion, that's a really huge debate. And even to this day, as a person, I actually firmly believe we did actually go to the moon because there is enough footage. Like, if we did go to the moon, then why is there footage of the why is there footage from that time era where they could actually see the capsule launch into the ocean or fall from the sky and land into the ocean? Like, how did they fake that? How do you fake something that is you can literally see it on camera where it's actually literally falling from the sky and landing in the ocean. But there is still a lot of questions. The one thing that about this book was during the time when this book was published, there was a lot of controversy about a certain chapter in this book, specifically around the part about Jewish people. I read that part. He's not bashing Jewish people. He's bashing the he's bashing the higher ups or the government officials that are in charge of the Jewish people and Israel and Palestine in that area. That's where a lot of the controversy and a lot of people saying like, well, he's talking about racism and stuff like that about the Jewish people. No, if you actually read his book, he's basically trying to bash and try to warn people that when this book was published, that that he firmly believed that the government system in Israel is lying to the Jewish people about the true history and their connection to the land. And that he believes that the government officials or the Illuminati or the shape shifting reptilian government officials have lied to the Jewish people about their origins and connections to Israel. Now, I don't really want to get into much of it because I don't know a whole lot, but that's basically what the controversy was about if you're actually following his work. He firmly believed that the Jewish government at the time when the book was published that they lied to the Jewish people, and that is basically what he was talking about in his book. What is really really interesting and funny about his book is that there is a section in his book where he blends in Christianity and his knowledge about the reptilian theory. And he firmly believes that um long ago that humans used to be androgynous, meaning that they were both male and female, or they did not understand or did not have feminine or masculine energy. And he talks about this in his book, and I find this really really hilarious and funny. And that the reptilian race came in and separated them in order to have a male and female, a male and female. And he explains this is what they were talking about in Genesis, and he's trying to get an alternate viewpoint about the Bible and the reptilian theory. I find it really hilarious because I don't really believe that, and there's so much information that contradicts what he's actually talking about in his book. There's so much information about his book that contradicts exactly what he's talking about. And if you don't really understand the guy, after reading his book, he likes to make a point and add jokery and humorism into what he's writing about. For people who are actual researchers and a person who's researching, I do not take his work seriously. I think that it is a conspiracy, comedic research, alternate research that I can't really get it back, and I don't really support his work. But a person who wants to have fun with viewing an alternate viewpoint of the world and have a comedic outlook about it, I suggest reading his book, but don't take his work seriously because there's so much information in his work that contradicts some of his work. Like, for an example, he believes that all deities, all gods, even demons, even when we talk about elves, fairies, and stuff, he believes that they are all reptilians. He doesn't actually believe that they're actually separate species. And for a person like especially witches and pagans um and Wiccans can firmly tell you that they're different species, like demons, fairies, elves, and elementals are completely different species and entities. Even gods have different personalities and stuff. They're not all reptilians. They're not all sucking your energy from you. sometimes deities and spirits like giving messages and guiding people on their spiritual path. It's not all about sucking and draining your energy. And this is the reason why I don't really get on board, because he never talks about the basic fundamentals of spirituality, where the most important things that you need to do with spirituality is, number one, ground yourself. Number two, protect yourself. And number three, try to learn to balance your energy with your chakra systems and balance the energy flow around you. But he never talks about that in his book. Everything about his book is about supporting his reptilian theory. But the thing about it is that he also talks about that the reason why we can't see our politicians or see these shape-shifting reptilians is because they live beyond the light, or the spectrum of light that the human eyes can see. Which she's talking about, that these shape-shifting reptilians are on a different dimension similar to Earth, and that's the reason why we can't see them. And so in my opinion, that is completely false. Yes, there are reptilians that live on many different dimensions and stuff, but a lot of them live underground. Some of them are really peaceful. Not all of them are evil. Some of them are really peaceful. Some of them want nothing to do with humans. Some of them, like the Draconians, want to take control of the planet or have been taking control of the planet. But in my understanding of his book is basically just him regurgitating information throughout his book in order to prove his narrative. I personally had to stop reading his book around chapter 16 because everything about his book has been regurgitated information. There is a lot of good information that he talks about, especially about MK Ultra, different government projects, and talking about them. He was really good at explaining those type of conspiracy theories that I don't think a lot of people sort of understood. I do believe that he was the type of person that really influenced a lot of the stuff, or a lot of the conspiracies that we still talk about to this day. He is the original person that has actually started the reptilian theory. He is the person that actually started that back in the 80s and 90s. He's the original person that started doing that type of theory. He's also the type of I think he's also the person that also started the fake moon theory, that the moon is actually fake, that we never went to, that we never actually went to the moon. Like, he was the one who started that theory in his book. He's also the one that started that all our politicians are pedophiles and shapeshifting reptilians, and they're all part of the Illuminati. And basically, he was basically the one that tried to get this type of stuff into the mainstream media. But as a person who read his book, and let me summarize for people, sort of to explain a little bit more, and basically explain or give a summary of what I have learned about his books. Um, I have learned that there is many different understandings, and I can understand how information is so misconstrued, and how people can take a different type of idea and flip it around. I understand how people get on board with his work is because he's very good at explaining extremely advanced contemplated ideas, simplifying them for the general public to read and understand about. He's really good at explaining it. He's really good at proving his point throughout his book. But when it really comes down to it, he's never actually sat down with an actual starseed. He's never actually sat down with an actual UFO researcher. And he's never actually sat down with a person who has been dealing with this their entire lives, like the UFO phenomenon. What is really, really interesting is that throughout his book, and what I have noticed is that um he talks about his life story and how he got involved in explaining, or how he got into this reptilian theory and how it came to him about. He does talk about this in the story. He talks about that it came to him while he was um going shopping, and once he started talking to a psychic. Well, he only talked to one psychic about what he was going through and what he's experiencing, but he never went and got a second opinion, which really kind of made me think, like, why did he only go to one psychic? Why didn't he go and get like a second or third opinion about what was actually coming to you? And after reading his books, I do firmly believe that he is a person that has been severely messed with voice to skull, or V2K as some people call it. I firmly believe that he's been heavily influenced by voice to skull by our government, and it makes me kind of skeptical whether or not he's actually like a conspiracy researcher or an actual agent of our government to derail people from the actual truth, due to the fact that some of the stuff he talks about is exactly what a lot of people with MK Ultra would talk about or hear about in his books. He does firmly admit that he has dealt with drugs in his books. Like, he tried to open up his um chakra systems or his perception or his mind through drugs that he got when he was traveling to Brazil. He does explain that, and he talks about what he experienced through his drug induced or alternate viewpoint of what he saw during taking drugs. Now, I have no issue with people saying that they take drugs to basically to experience things or heighten their experiences. But when you're dealing with UFO, like serious UFO research and serious people that devote their entire lives, once you add alcohol and drugs, like drugs into your work, people do not take your work seriously. It doesn't matter who you are, whether you're a government official or a regular daily person. Once there is drugs or alcohol associated with your work, you're basically fired. You're basically no good, and people cannot use the research. And I think this is a reason why a lot of people cannot take him seriously, and this is the reason why I don't take him seriously, is because he does acknowledge that he did take drugs. What bothers me is that he doesn't understand the long-term effects of what drugs does to the body. He does explain that there was a lot of drug use and stuff going on in the 70s, which started this whole trend of the Starseed community. Like, if he actually did actual research about the Starseed community, he would really understand that the Starseed community did not come from drugs, that it came from people who actually have experiences and connections to the stars. Like, their galactic families do come and visit them. And in my opinion, in my respect and stuff, he does make very good valid points, and he does make very good interesting and conversations and stuff about his work. So as a researcher myself, and as a star seed, and as I continue doing my work, and this is the message that I will talk to my subscribers about. Do not take this man's work seriously. There's so many contradicting conflict ideas in his book that makes me really upset, and it makes me question a lot of stuff about him personally. Um, I really don't believe that his work is actually factual. I believe that some of his work that he has done is only done to serve his purpose, which is supporting his UFO, his reptilian theory throughout his books. Everything about his work is about proving his reptilian theory. It's never about allowing other researchers with their information and presenting it and supporting other starseeds. It's all about fitting his narrative. So it makes me kind of believe that his reptilian theory is only done to promote his work and promote his type of conspiracy that he's talking about. And basically trying to get people to talk about that our world is severely corrupt, like our entire government structure, our government officials have been corrupt for a very, very long time. And some people in the Sarsi community and some people in the SSP do believe that there is a bloodline that has been controlling the world. And I do believe that there is still a lot of research that needs to be done. But what I don't like is that a person who takes our past and manipulates it to fit their own narrative. And this is basically what he's done. He took research without actually consulting actual people on the subject matter and actually written a book and find pieces of information around the world just to fit his narrative. But if he actually looked at other researchers around the world, it contradicts what he's actually saying. And so basically, to summarize, do not take this man's work seriously. If you want to read his books, go ahead. But if you're going to read his books, like if you're a researcher or a starseed or experiencer, take his work with a grain of salt. Um, Basically, read it as like it's an economy to alternate research or alternate thinking to get your mind away from the constructed view of what has been doled on you for generations and generations. Like, if you want something to help you get rid of the dogma of what you have been conditioned to, then read his books and have a good, fun time reading his books. But don't take his work seriously, because if you actually talk to starseeds, experiencers, people who go to UFO Con and Alien Con, who actually talk about their experiences, can actually contradict a lot of what he's saying in this book. But thank you so much for listening. Let me know if you guys have any questions or comments. But thank you so much for listening to this video, and I really hope you find this kind of interesting. Let me know what your thoughts are about this book. Like, if you read his book, like, what do you guys think of it? But thank you so much for listening.